Terrance McKinney, he likes a bit of the social media. He's not a fighter.
Shamrock was flirting at the idea of getting this matchup against you.
Shamrock.
It was strange because you could see that he was out, but it kind of took the ref a while to realise.
I didn't even realise he was out either. I only realised when I punched him. Now, this is what I'm fucking built for. Like, this isn't a play game for me. This isn't plan B. This is plan A. I have no other plans other than this. Throughout my training camps, I always thought to myself, maybe I might not get there. Maybe I won't, but I'll keep fucking trying and I'll keep hashing towards this goal of mine. Everybody looks for the fucking wonder story. This guy, he knew as soon as he fucking came out his mum's vagina, he was going to be a superstar. That's a great story. I'm just a fucking normal guy.
Why do you fight?
In 2014, my mum died. She was actually killed the day of the weigh-in of my first ever MMA fight.
Something so tragic happens and you still fight the next day. You obviously had that mindset before you even started fighting. Where the hell does that come from?
I had a very tough upbringing, full of addiction, drugs, alcohol, having to forage for food when I was a small child. These things make you a hungry motherfucker. So,
Brandon here for Combat Sports UK. I am delighted today to be joined by Chris Duncan, who has just had a fight announced against Jordan Vucenic on the UFC London card. We are going to be talking about that fight and some other bits and bobs today. Thank you very much for coming on to Combat Sports UK, Chris. How are you?
anytime, my man. Yeah, I'm doing good.
I want you to kind of tell us how long this fight with Jordan Vucenic has been in the works, because whenever the card was announced originally, this fight wasn't on it. It's been a great addition to be added onto it. So how long have you known that Jordan Vucenic was going to be your opponent, and when did you know you were going to be on the London card?
I knew I was on the London card about 5 weeks ago, and I think the Jordan Vucenic fight came in about 2 weeks ago. So I've had plenty of news to get the weight down for the London card, but Jordan Vucenic, and to be honest, it didn't really matter the name. It was just more about me getting the fight. I focus on myself consistently, and the names who are put in front of me from the UFC cannot be turned down. So, well, you can turn them down, but it's not.
Doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't look good, and it's not me either. So I'm looking forward to showcasing my skills in front of Jordan Vucenic, and obviously he's got a great pedigree in regards to his Cage Warriors resume, so I look forward to showing everybody I'm the best fighter to come out of the UK at the moment.
Shamrock was kind of flirting at the idea of getting this matchup against you.
Shamrock.
Was that ever in the works, or was it just Shamrock doing Shamrock things?
No, it's just Shamrock things. He's been in my DMs and that. I actually hate the guy, to be honest. He's funny. It makes a bit of a laugh. We've been talking over online, but he's giving me nightmares. He's in my DMs 24/7 now. Especially, he's fucking getting a bit of attention, thinking that potentially could be on the London card, but I don't think that will happen. I think he's still signed to Octagon, but that's just shame.
It is looking unlikely at this stage. Obviously, as you said, Jordan Vucenic is great pedigree in Cage Warriors. He's very well thought of by the UK fan base. How do you
top of the bill? Exactly the fight that I need at this time. Coming off a big submission of the night win in Paris. A well thought after fight from the UK, like a UK showdown, Scotland versus England. Now, this is what I'm fucking built for. Like, this isn't a play game for me. This isn't like a plan B. This is plan A. I have no other plans other than this. So, this is the type of fights that I want, and I do well under the limelight,
And you mentioned Scotland versus England there. How do you think it's going to be split in there in the O2 in London? Obviously, it's in England, but I'm sure there's a hell of a lot of Scottish travelling across the border for it as well.
Yeah, there will be, but obviously London, hometown for him. He's actually a bigger name in regards to his following, going by his Instagram, than me. So I reckon the crowd will favour Jordan Vucenic. But
does it bother you?
Nah, mate. I went into fucking Mexico City, into the fucking Lions Den, and done the job over there. So if anything, it fills me with more pride and more drive to make sure I do well. Back when Scotland and England were at war, Scotland had many less men than the Englishmen. So, same goes again. I'm going into war with just myself, and we take on the English.
I love that analogy. I love that, going back to ancient times.
Yeah.
It's been a year and a half since you fought in the UK. You've been in France, you've been in Paris. Is there something nice about it being a bit closer to home? You're not having to, you might be flying or driving. I'm not sure how you'll get to London, but you're not having to make a decent bit of travelling before fight week and stuff. Does that make a difference in terms of weight cutting and getting prepared for the fight?
So, to be honest, I fought in London. This will be my third time fighting in London, and I train at American Top Team in Miami, so there is a travel, unfortunately. But I'm very close-knit with the GB fight team, or GB top team, sorry, that are in London. So I'll travel back from Miami, jump in there and get my fight week, or maybe 10 days before the fight, and just kind of get my schedule back on form, get a couple of blowouts, and get a couple sessions in to try and get the sweat off from the airtime.
Obviously, American Top Team is a great gym to be at. How did you kind of come about going out there and training? How did that relationship with them start?
So my training partner, my main training partner in Scotland, is a guy called Robert Whiteford. Robert Whiteford was the first Scottish fighter to be signed to the UFC. So me and him hit it off very early on in my amateur career. And Robert has pretty much showed me the ropes. He's shown me all the tricks, the trades, you name it, that guy's done it. So I wanted to follow in his footsteps and not be the guys that, obviously, higher level in Scotland are a well thought after MMA team. Yep. I just felt like I didn't fit in and wanted to go elsewhere and do what Robert Whiteford done, because I feel that Robert Whiteford's the best fighter to ever come out of Scotland at this moment in time.
He's definitely up there. Obviously, like Mike Brown, a very good coach out there in American Top Team. You've got guys like Dustin Poirier. Do you feel that training out there in that environment, do you feel it's brought your game on much? Have you noticed a big difference, a big improvement since you went out there in comparison to training a bit closer to home?
Yeah, for sure. I think at the very start it was quite difficult for me. I was getting my arse handed to me left, right and centre for about 3-4 weeks in the first couple of times I went over there. But now, as I've grown and realised that I'm very capable of hanging with these guys, my confidence is built. And the likes of Dustin, when I've been training with Dustin, the guy goes out of his way to give me time and give me information that I need to get better, which I'm very, very grateful of. So, the likes of Dustin, Masvidal, Matthias Gamrot, all these guys have given me a little bit of a snippet of their game to help improve myself. And I'm like a sponge, so anything they say I'll do. So I'm very fortunate to be in the room with these guys.
How much does that change your kind of attitude going into the fight, or your confidence levels when you are out there with these top guys in the top of the divisions in the UFC? Is that nearly as important as getting these wee tips, just having the resilience and the mindset that you can hang with them?
Yeah, for sure. Like in American Top Team, I think 5 people from that gym are in the top 15. So that's nearly fucking coming up on 50%. It's unbelievable. You've got Arman, you've got Matthias Gamrot, you've got Grant Dawson, Hineto Moicano. I'm trying to think of another lightweight who's in the top 15 from that gym, but the list goes on. Like, how can I not be getting better in that gym? And how can I not be confident walking into that fight? I've always been confident when I walk to the fight. There's always an element of being scared, but that's where your preparation takes over. Your preparation allows you to perform at your best, and especially under those lights of the UFC. Yeah.
For sure. Wanted to kind of recap, we did mention it there before, but that round 1 submission in Paris, 50k bonus, you had a beautiful moment on the microphone after. How good was that getting back in the win column after a frustrating few months? Because I know you had the fight booked before and staph infection and all the rest of it. So how special was that night in Paris in terms of the rest of your career? Was it up there with one of the best so far?
It's been the most life-changing for sure in monetary value. There was a lot of shit going on happening. When I took that fight in Mexico, I was plagued with an injury that affected the training camp in the lead up to the fight, which I don't like talking about because that was my own decision to walk into the fight itself. So, I was glad to have had a clean training camp. I took the fight on 5 weeks' notice in Paris, which made the weight cut pretty difficult, but we managed to get through. We got there in the end, but, it speak volumes for taking that opportunity to jump back in and fight against the guy who was 9-1. He hadn't lost since his first professional fight. A lucrative striker, kickboxer. His training partners in his gym are from Glory. It was great to have got the submission finish on a high-ranked opponent.
That was a ballsy one for sure. That was a bit of a weird one. I remember watching it live, and it was strange because you could see that he was out, but it kind of took the ref a while to realise that he was actually unconscious in that guillotine. Yeah.
I didn't even realise he was out either, to be honest with you. I only realised when I punched him, because the next part of, if I very rarely pull guards when it comes to guillotine, just because it puts you in a bad position if the guy pops his head out. So, once I framed on the back of his head, cupped the back of his head and framed on his hips and started to punch to get distance, he didn't give me distance. So I was like, he's out. So it was quite cool.
That was cool. That was a very cool moment. Not to get ahead of this big fight that you have coming up, but there's been a lot of talk online with Terrance McKinney. Of course, he got on the mic there last weekend, called you out. You had a fight scheduled before that fell through. Why? What is it between you two? Because it goes back maybe a couple of years now since the first fight was scheduled. Was there a bit of beef before that, or did you have that fight and it fell through and you have just kind of kept going back and forth at each other? What is it?
Yeah. So Terrance McKinney, he likes a bit of the social media. He's not a fighter. I respect him. He messaged me back and forth, and he just had a baby girl, and I've congratulated him on his baby girl. But Terrance McKinney loves social media, and he can't help but keep his mouth from chatting shit. So he asked for this fight after his big win. So after this fight and after I go through Jordan Vucenic, hopefully we'll get that scheduled for Miami. If Jordan Vucenic for whatever reason pulls out, I'll be happy to take that fight with Terrance McKinney. Also, when it all happened and the fight fell through, Terrance McKinney had put up on something on his social media about me not being able to get to the fight for whatever reason, and it was nothing within my hands that could be helped. It was
it? Yeah,
it was these issues, and he came out with some fucking statement that it was my fault that the fight fell through or some shit, and that pissed me off. So yeah, he'll get his comeuppance. Just needs to wait in line. As I said in my wee repost back to him, was I've just opened up my limited company now, so I think I'm looking for some easy cash flow come next month, so he'd be the man for it.
It would be one that would make a lot of headlines, and with that sort of beef built up before, it's one that I would be excited for. Obviously, there's a stat floating around about him at the minute about these first round finishes. He either gets finished or he finishes in the first round. Would your fight get out the first round with him?
Oh, fucking right. I'm resilient. I'd make sure of it. He's a gas.
Do you not finish him in the first round, but?
Nah, I don't think so. Nah. Unless he makes a stupid fucking... But I think with Terrance McKinney, I think I could break him. Like, I think, the way he acts and the way he comes out of fights, he says he's been working on things, but, you can't take the dog out of the fight with me. I'm going to put it on him. He's going to get me out in the first round and put some pressure on me, but, I know guys have trained with him, and I just know how much better I am than that guy.
Yeah, it would be one I would love to see. What is the plan for 2025 and beyond then? Obviously, if you get the hand raise against Ford and Jordan Vucenic, do you want another couple of fights in there? Maybe Terrance McKinney. How far do you think you can go in this lightweight division once you start getting this nice wee run together? Yeah,
for sure. So, to be honest with you, I never even thought I could make it to the UFC.
Why?
I think negative thoughts and good thoughts they play off each other. Me thinking I might lose a fight will strive me to train harder to win a fight. So I never potentially thought. I wrote it in my phone. In 2019. I said, I will be in the UFC. It's just a matter of time. And I keep that to myself, and I never shout it out. So, throughout my training camps, I always thought to myself, maybe I might not get there. Maybe I won't. But I'll keep fucking trying, and I'll write it down in my notes, and I'll keep hashing towards this goal of mine. So the next part of that, I remember, when I was trying to get into the UFC, I would blow out candles, I would see a shooting star, and I would always wish to be in the UFC. So now my dream has changed. I made it to the UFC. Not very many people have accomplished a dream. So now my next goal is to get into top 10, top 15. Whether that's possible, I don't know, but I'm going to be steamrolling my way through any other person who gets in front of me to make sure I do get there. And I think a little bit of negative thought coming into your mind is a good driving factor to make sure you put in the most effort. I always feel that I can put in 100% effort, and nothing bad ever comes out of 100% effort. So, the sky's the limit for me. Just because I didn't think I could get into the UFC doesn't mean I don't think I might ever be UFC champion one day, but I just need to fucking fill the gap between that. The UFC championship belt is miles and miles away from where I am right now. So I've got small, medium and long-term goals that I need to accomplish before that's even a twinkle in my eye.
That is very, very interesting that you kind of had them negative thoughts, but you're sort of striving on them, because all the self-help books out there, and you hear fighters talk all the time, they're manifesting saying, I will be in the UFC, and they truly do believe it no matter what level they're at, whereas you're kind of taking like an opposite stance, probably a more realistic stance, to be fair, that, maybe I might not make it, but it's just strange how you do have that negativity creep into your mind mind, but you use it to fuel you in the end. So it's probably a good thing.
Well, to be honest, mate, everybody looks for the fucking wonder story, the most amazing story. You know, this guy, he knew as soon as he fucking came out his mum's vagina, he was going to be a superstar. Like, that's a great story. That's movie making shit. Like I'm just a fucking normal guy from a normal fucking place in a normal area. Like Tom Aspinall, you know, he's a normal guy and he knows he's a normal guy, but he stayed consistent. And I'm guaranteed that guy's had negative thoughts. And why can't that guy be champion just because he had negative thoughts? No, I don't think so. It takes a brave man, it takes a strong man to be able to work off his strong negative thoughts and make them into positive. It makes you train harder. You know, there's a famous speech from Mike Tyson when he's walking out to the ring, and he says, as I get closer to the ring, I become more confident. As I become more closer to the ring, I become more confident. He'd like to have dreams about the guy beating him, and then when he walks into the ring and all the preparation's done, he feels like a god. And that's exactly how I prepare myself for war. So, you know, preparation and consistency is the key to all victories.
Do you think everyone has them thoughts? As in, Mike Tyson, one of the best to ever do it, one of the scariest men on the planet, even he thought his opponent was going to beat him. Do you think all these guys that come in and say, I know I'm going to win, I'm 100% certain I'm going to win, do you think that's them sort of putting a face on, and deep down in the back of their mind, they do have these sort of negative thoughts or these doubts as well?
Nah, because you know what, mate, there's a bit of psychology to this. You know, any words that you say out loud, you know, can tend to happen. You know, people always say, don't think about negative thoughts because it will happen. It's the same sort of thing. You know, if you keep telling yourself, you know, I'm going to win by TKO, I'm going to win. But like, if that never happened, right? So say for instance, like the Conor McGregor build up to the last Dustin fight, he's like, I'm going to knock you out, I'm going to finish him in the first round. And then he didn't, but Dustin knocked him out. Nobody remembered him saying, I was going to knock you out. You know, it was just blown under the carpet. You know, so it's just clickbait stuff, you know. And I do think a positive verbal speak or talking about winning is important, because I also have negative thoughts, but I also go out of my way when I'm on my runs and I've got my earphones in, thinking about the fight and thinking positively, thinking about standing up on top of the cage and feeling the feelings and the emotions that come from the crowd, you know, and winning. So like positive and negative, you know, they might be complete opposite, but they're one. You know, that's interesting.
I love that. I always like to ask this question. It's something a wee bit deeper. Why do you fight?
So this is a long-winded story, but I'll try and shut it down a little bit. I used to be a farmer. I used to be a shepherd. I worked in there for many, many years. And in 2014, my mum died. She was actually killed the day of the weigh-in of my first ever MMA fight. So from there, I had the fight the next day. I went ahead with the fight, even though my mum had been killed. And I decided after the fight, when I was out on the night out with my friends afterwards, celebrating my win, that I was going to dedicate my life to something important to me, but not to anybody else. Because, as I say, you know, life can be ripped away from you in an instant with my mum. So I dedicated myself to the gym, and I didn't think that this would have snowballed into what it is. But my drive, and I always say that me trying to hide away that negative emotion from my mum being killed, I buried my head in the sand with training. I absolutely threw myself into MMA to try and not think about everything else that was going outside in my life. And you know, that was something, it sounds terrible, but out of something so bad came out something so good. And that's why I carried that pendant to the cage, and that's why I gave her that shout out after my win.
That's incredible, and I appreciate you sharing that story. But see, back then, you're talking now, and I can see the resilience in the mindset, and I was thinking you must have grew this as you were fighting and getting more confident, whatever else. But it's clear to me that something so tragic happens and you still fight the next day. You obviously had that mindset before you even started fighting. Where the hell does that come from?
A rough upbringing. So no, I wasn't. Like my mum and dad, I feel they would have loved me. I had a very tough upbringing, full of addiction, full of drugs, alcohol, obviously neglect, you know, having to forage for food when I was a small child. You know, these things make you a hungry motherfucker. So I will not have myself put my daughter or my son in that position ever again. Like, I will not have them feeling like how I felt, because I know how terrible it is. So that's maybe where my drive comes from right now in regards to my kids. But, you know, when you don't have something, it becomes your almost like whole entire life goal to make it happen. So that's why people like Mike Tyson and all these guys who came from nothing become world champions, because they know how important it is to be that person with the money and the cars, because they've had absolutely nothing.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I love that. It's like that old story where there was a father who was an alcoholic and he had two sons. One of them turned into an alcoholic and the other one turned into a high class, rich, successful businessman. And he says, why did you do this? And the alcoholic says, oh, because my dad was an alcoholic. Another one says, because my dad was an alcoholic as well. He didn't want to go down the same path. But that is incredible. That is incredible.
Well, that's exactly what I do. Yeah. So a tattoo across my chest that represents my mother, and it says beautiful addiction. So my mother was addicted to drugs, alcohol, you name it. But I am addicted to MMA, and that is why it's a beautiful addiction.
Yeah, that's perfect. Beautiful addiction. I love that. I love that. One last question. Fight Jordan Vucenic. Give us your prediction then. How do you think it's going to go?
So I don't like to make predictions in regards to the fight before I've started sparring. I'm going to speak with Mike and my coaches like Tiago when I get there. They are already under preparation and analysing Jordan as we speak. When we get there, we're going to start implementing the game plan, and what will happen is there'll become a systematic approach to try and beat this guy. So I'll be able to put my own flavour onto that as they come up with a game plan. But to be honest with you, I think it's going to be a tough 3-round war, to be honest with it. This guy's a very decorated striker. I have power. I'm looking forward to fight of the night.
Oh, for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing it, Chris. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a great camp out at American Top Team, and I look forward to seeing you. I got tickets for UFC London, so I'll be up in the nosebleeds watching you. Looking forward to it.
Yes, perfect, my man. Thank you.